Today we have with us our guest speaker, Joe Morrison with Kitsap Economic Development Alliance. Joe joined KEDA in late 2020. It's been a while. I have not been at a podium for like 3 years. Prior to joining KEDA, he built and ran a municipality of Anchorage's $12.7 million 49th State Angel Fund, an economic development initiative investing in Alaska startups through local fund managers and working to build the state's entrepreneurial infrastructure. At KEDA, Joe focuses on offering the right blend of programs, partnerships, and technical assistance to all of Kitsap in response to the COVID economic crisis. So welcome, Joe.
Okay, multiple glasses. Adjust the, there we go. Oh, wow. Intro music as well. Taking care of business. Thank you very much. So I'm going to go an hour and a half. Is that what I have? Does that sound right? No, seriously, like, how long do I have? 5 minutes. 5 minutes. Let's call it 20 to 30. Does that work? And it looks like this is a clicker here. I'm going to keep this little device here so I know when I'm talking too much. I've been known to have the gift of the gab from time to time. Okay, and it's sliding. Is it going to stay there? I give up. Whatever. All right. Hi, everybody. Let's see if this works. Okay. Is there a clicky thing? Do I press a certain direction for the clicky thing?
Let's see.
Okay.
Told you.
Well, when you get the clicky thing to work, so I'm at KEDA, right? It's the Kitsap Economic Development Alliance, and we call it KEDA for short because we don't want to say 4 words and like 100 different syllables. And KEDA is our community's economic developer. We're the official economic developer of Kitsap. And we know that Kitsap is what's KEDA? Thank you. KEDA, we know that Kitsap is a small place that's kind of weirdly a big place. What I mean by that is that we have a fairly small territory and county. We have a lot of density because it's small, and we have a lot of differences in the communities that we serve. Bremerton is a little bit different, I hear, from Bainbridge Island. That's different. Port Orchard's different from Kingston. But recently in September, we had a board retreat, and the vision statement that the board came up with that we're adopting is economic vitality for all, and all is a really big word, and we do mean all, in this one spectacular place, which you can see right in front of you. We have the Olympics to our west, we have the water everywhere, we have the behemoth known as Seattle and the greater Seattle area right to our east, and we're in a really privileged position. So some of what we're going to talk about today is the opportunity that lies before us with Kitsap's economy. But I'd also like to ask you what's on your minds related to the economy as well. So let's get started. We talked about what we are, holistically focused on the health and growth of Kitsap's economy. We are both a public and private investor supported endeavor. So we're supported by the Washington State Department of Commerce, we're supported by the county. We have about 70 plus private investors that support us as well. And when we started the year, we sort of said that our theme for the year was going to be One Kitsap, because even though we know that Bremerton and Bainbridge are different, overcoming those differences and coming together to support each other and to support our small business community that's been through so much in the past year is really, really important, as is coming out of this economic crisis. We want to come out of this economic crisis poised for opportunity and poised for growth and to capitalize on all the opportunity that's in front of us. But some of that means we need to come together, and that's what I think part of my job is at KEDA, is to bring us together and enable that dialogue. So let's look at that a little bit more. What are all the things we do? We work with our public and private employers to make sure that they are retention and expansion and recruitment. So are they going to stay in our community? Are they going to expand their operations? That's really important to us. That's probably like job one in economic development. Recruitment's tougher, but when we do talk to companies about coming to Kitsap, we have an active recruitment right now. We're hopeful and this is a really good time to be positioned in Puget Sound. We think we're responsible for promoting brand Kitsap to the rest of the Seattle area, to the rest of the nation, and to the rest of the world. Meaning that Kitsap is this exceptional place of beauty and remarkable quality of life, where it's also a great place to come and base your business and base your needs as an employer and integrate into the community and offer value to the community. So promoting brand Kitsap is something that I'm really focused on as well. I think this is probably the most important thing we do, which is bring people together through events. It's been really tough, of course, over the last 2 years to do it. We did have some really great digital events in the beginning of the year. You know, we had 200 people online for our economic forecast. We'll be taking a shot at that again in Q1. We recognize that people are kind of zoomed out and it's hard to get back on those digital calls. But unless things change, we may have to do it that way. I'd rather we didn't, but it is what it is. We don't control the pandemic. And then advocating for public policy. This is kind of, we look at the opportunities before us and the opportunities before Kitsap, what things are germinating in the state legislature, and how can we advocate for Kitsap's economic interest. And kind of the clearest example of this might be advocating for resale authority of public broadband, right? For public utility districts, so that our public utility district can go after federal grants. The Gorse Coalition, which is a network of public and private investors, is also a very clear area where it's in all of our interest to advocate for a fix to the infrastructure issue that is the Gorse corridor, right? It's a generational traffic issue. You've dealt with it if you've been here a while. Your mom and dad probably dealt with it. Maybe even your grandparents dealt with it. This might be the time to fix it. So we've been advocating and working with the Gorse Coalition to try and get that project increased in Washington Department of Transportation's list of priorities. And we're hopeful, right? Big infrastructure bill passed, lots of focus on infrastructure in our nation. Maybe this is the time for Kitsap. We focus on 3 areas. So this is kind of like what we do day in and day out. Work with businesses regarding their employment. Will they stay here? Will they expand? Bring people together to dialogue, promote our brand, and also, you know, take care of public policy. Where would we focus? And I'm gonna go in reverse order here. The thing that is most important for us to focus on, and that is Kitsap's biggest strength, is our defense economy. $4 billion a year of annual economic impact happens because of naval base Kitsap. It goes beyond Kitsap's borders, right? It's a remarkable economic engine that keeps Kitsap relatively stable during tough times. We might see a little bit of that later on. Entrepreneurship and innovation. In the intro, Gina mentioned that I ran an investment fund that helped local entrepreneurs get launched or grow their businesses. That was my previous life. When it comes to KEDA, I think our job with entrepreneurship and innovation is, one, make sure it's here so that we have something that we can look forward to for a future economy in 10 to 20 to 30 years. And 2, make sure that the people in Kitsap have the resources and the infrastructure they need to build businesses that are both valuable here and that can connect to the greater Puget Sound ecosystem. Because the greater Seattle area, which is here, it's part of us too, and it's part of Snohomish County, it's part of Pierce County. It's one of the most powerful economic centers in the United States, right? It has Fortune 25 companies, many of which are technology companies that have thrived and exploded during the pandemic. We're in a very privileged position. Finally, diversity, equity, inclusion, and that means this: whatever we do, if we're working on an autonomous vehicles grant application, if we're working on a shop local campaign, if we're thinking about how we're governed, we want to make sure that we're approaching all of Kitsap's communities and its different backgrounds and its different histories and its different people, so that we're one umbrella where people can come in and work together and dialogue. And that means we value diversity, we care about equity of opportunity for all people in our community, and we welcome it inclusively into our work. All right, moving forward, now's your time to talk. What's on your mind about our economy? And let's talk about Kitsap's economy and not necessarily the economy of the nation. I know I went fast and dropped some energy bombs, but I figure you guys aren't the shy types.
Can small businesses survive?
Good question. Small business on the radar. Okay, what else? What else is on our mind in Kitsap with regard to our economy?
What's going to happen to the mall in Silverville?
Yeah, maybe I can answer that one easier than small business. I think.
That's full of small business.
Maybe I'm drinking the wrong Kool-Aid on that, but I think the mall in Silverdale is an asset that is, the biggest mall across 2 peninsulas, and it's going to sell for a significant amount of money, and it's kind of already bank owned. So that's my take on the mall. It's really kind of it's a story that to me feels like not a story. Anyway.
Energy policy is gonna impact everybody.
Energy policy. Okay, that's way off my list. Tom, tell me what you're thinking about energy policy.
The cost of goods and services are gonna continue to skyrocket as long as we don't have a make sense policy on energy.
Okay.
Whether it's fuel for vehicles, you're not gonna be able to transition our country, the planet, it's not gonna be able to transition to renewables at the rate at which people think that's gonna happen.
That is a really big issue, and that's a global issue. And that is, while I said that, is it Frank? No. What's your name? Clark.
Yeah.
Well, I said, I think I can answer Clark's, this is my take on it. That issue is so big that I tend to stay out of it. But
That's a problem though.
But we see
We
it.
gotta get involved in it.
But we see it trickling down, right? And I think you brought up cost of goods and services, which kind of leads us to another hot economic topic. Anybody want to take a shot at it? Workforce? We've got that one on our list. Workforce.
People to work.
Supply chain, workforce. I left supply chain off because although we can bring people together to dialogue about it, it's pretty difficult for us to move the needle. All right, well here's what I'm thinking about right now. And so Stacy got one, John got one. Nobody talked about housing. Wow, is housing on anybody's mind in this community?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Is your name Ash?
Yeah. Why, Casey?
Ash, tell me about why housing's on your mind.
The pricing is starting to outprice the general family in the area. From a lot of people moving in, and the wages not increasing as fast as they are in like Seattle and places like that.
You got me right here, Ash. I'm 100% on board with what you're saying. And most of my fellow economic developers are starting to get pretty concerned about the prices of housing. In Kitsap, we've seen increases that sort of start at 10% per year from 2019. Some areas are through the roof. You might see 18% year-on-year growth, depending on where you are in Kitsap. I think it averages out to like 11% in 19, 14% in 20 year-on-year price growth. It's really scary, and we have people in our community that are sailors, that are E5s, that work here, and where do they live? But if you think it's challenging here, I think those numbers are like 30% year-on-year growth in Spokane, and they're bigger elsewhere. So it's a problem that sort of, even beyond Puget Sound, Washington is just facing. Live in a great place, guess what? Other people want to move there. All right, workforce, who wants to talk about workforce problems? Raise your hand. If you, yeah, no, you start. I'm sorry, which moving company?
I'm with Merchants Moving and Storage Beacon.
Hello, and your name is?
Judy.
Judy, talk to us about what's on your mind.
Well, I'm sure that anybody that has a business here understands that finding able-bodied men and women, who want to work, and just finding bodies. I mean, it's for some unknown reason, and it's anybody in the moving business, even the trucking. I mean, you can't find drivers. There's no drivers.
I drove to Oregon this weekend, and all I saw were trucks
You saw
with signs on them that said, "We are hiring."
Yeah, they desperately need people. But it's a problem for it's not just us, it's everybody. Everybody that's, I'm sure the Hampton Inn is having a hard time finding people to work for them. I imagine that it's universal.
I think you're probably right. How is it going with workforce at the Hampton Inn?
They're fully staffed.
Are they?
So I came into
You came into a beautiful situation.
because I previously worked in SeaTac, and that was definitely a problem by far. And the wage there is incrementally quite a bit larger,
Yeah.
and we're still having problems getting staffing. So
Well, it's hard, right? Like, I mean, you know, Amazon's lowest wage is $15 an hour. That's not what they're paying. They're paying more than that, with plenty of benefits and other opportunities. So, go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying, they also have some incentives, like the sign-on, and then if they stay a certain amount of time, then they have another bonus that they get. And so our smaller businesses are competing with those competitive wages, and to get that talent inside our doors, we gotta compete with that wage. And
David.
The other issue that's gonna affect the workforce is the benefits, because our healthcare premiums and all that is gonna go up, because someone's gonna have to pay for all the people in the hospital this year because of COVID that were not insured. And so it's, I mean, and that's gonna be a cost that I think is gonna hit pretty hard for a lot of smaller businesses, because they're not gonna be able to afford it.
Yeah, you know, we're 3.5 staff, and they decided years ago, long before I ever showed up, can't afford healthcare. I can't imagine what that's gonna be like for smaller groups to be able to afford healthcare moving forward. So lots of workforce challenges. So these are the sorts of things that are on, I guess, my mind in the day job. How expensive and tough is it to find a place to live in this community? Do we have enough places to live? More on that in a second. Do we have enough employees to conduct our business activities? It sounds like ServPro is saying no. It sounds like other folks are saying no. And then small business, can we move from a continuing recovery to a thriving future? How would you characterize our economy right now? Awesome, roaring, terrible, recession? Anybody want to take a, there's no real right answer, although technically we're not in a recession, but. Okay.
Teetering.
It feels like we're almost at the cliff.
Feels like we're at the cliff. You said teetering. Anybody else?
I think we're on the verge of it.
Verge? It doesn't feel natural, right? It feels a little weird. Go ahead.
I mean, it's not, because the feds keep buying bonds, so they need to stop. So everybody's living in free money.
Yeah, so in April of 2020, if you would have said, hey, I know the stock market is crashing, but we're gonna see, I don't know what the rise has been, 10 to 20% gains in the stock market, highest stock market numbers ever, massive home price appreciation, and we're gonna print $7 trillion, and we're gonna have economic stimulus for small business. I don't think in 2020 we would have said, oh, that sounds right. Did you want to say something, Joanne?
I was just gonna say, I think I've seen the change in spending habits. So it may be tough to answer that question, especially knowing just where sales tax has gone locally, has very much increased, and there's a couple of reasons for that, but where people are spending their money make that look different today than what it did before. So I would say, at least locally, we have a strong economy, but it's in different parts than it was pre-COVID.
I want to ask our chambers if they know what did you guys ask a shop local question? Mm-hmm. What were the results like? Do you have those results in yet?
We did.
Yeah.
Whether you're gonna do it online or local.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, the results that we got, I think,
Okay.
are more, I mean, people.
We're looking it up.
People are wanting to do both, but definitely skewing towards getting back to in-person spending, if that's what you're.
Oh yeah, do you think you saw data saying we want more in person?
Yeah, there didn't seem to be, like, we had some specific questions on, you know, what are things you're looking for. 1 week was for in-person shopping, and the next week was for virtual shopping. And at least kind of what I looked at first glance, it seemed that kind of the conveniences of online shopping didn't seem to be that big of a driver anymore for people, so.
It's weird.
Which I thought was interesting.
Yeah, I don't know, there's a constant stream of things coming to my home, some of which I've purchased and some of which I have no idea what they are. We might get some more data on this. We had a conversation with the chambers about this because we saw this interesting statistic from PwC that said 50% of everybody in the United States says during the pandemic we're shopping more digitally and we're moving toward once-a-day purchases online. And then 50% of everybody surveyed in the United States said, we really care about our local community and we're making an effort to shop more in person. The same number of people, 1 in 2, said this is what we're trying to do, and I bet it's mostly overlap. So anyway, these are the things that Kita is focused on, and I just want to say about small business.
Joe,
Yep.
I have a question right here.
Okay.
Oh, well, it wasn't really a question, it was more of a comment.
Well, we love comments. Go for it.
I run a small business myself, it's like Captain County, and I rent the spaces in the complex that I'm in, other very small businesses, some of them brand new businesses. COVID really hit the small business bad, I mean, many of these businesses were just told they could not open. One fellow had started renting a unit, about 3 months before this COVID thing hit. And so he wound up just trying to start a business in the middle of not being able to even have an open door. Going through all that, of course, not everybody survived, and a lot of little businesses here in Bremerton did not survive COVID. I mean, they're gone. And so now we're just to the point where we think things are getting better, we could start a business again. And then I got a notice just last week that a business that had moved in that I thought could survive COVID, it was a social services type business, they got orders from on high that because of COVID they couldn't do this and they couldn't do that, and they've had to cut way back on what they do. And they weren't gonna rent as much space then in my building. This is going on and on. It seems endless. It seems like this is just constantly keeping us from getting our businesses really rolling again. And what we desperately need is a vision of how we do get rolling again. Because a lot of people are just stuck in the now what do I do phase.
And it's been such a brutal 20 months, right? It's been so brutal. And the story that I like to tell is that I went into a local, I want to call them a luxury foods manufacturer, right? And that just means like, hey, I'm not going to tell you who it is, but it's something like wine or alcohol or cannabis, something that you can live without, but you feel a lot better when you have it. Bread, right? And so anyway, like, that from the pandemic, alcohol sales, bread has been hot, right? Things that make you feel good have been hot. So I went into this place and I said, I kind of assumed that this company was going to have just killed it during the pandemic, just done amazingly. And the entrepreneur was there with tears in his eyes and said, until the phone started ringing in May, I was confident I was going to close my doors, and I had hundreds of thousands of dollars in arrears, and now I'm starting to pay my vendors back. As you kind of look for places to eat in our region, and you go, that's not there anymore, or hey, I used to go here before the pandemic, now this business is gone. There's a lot of stories of compression and pain that have hit our small business community. So this is kind of what's on my mind. However, our economic future is really bright. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk for 5 or 10 minutes about why our economic future is bright, and then I'm going to open it up for questions, and then I just hope you email me and stay in touch, okay? So, workforce. Why is Kitsap great for workforce? We have 3 universities operating here. We have a remarkable asset in Olympic College, and it's great at training many of the employees that we need, especially in some of the more practical and technical applications like welding and other certifications that you need in associate's degrees. Let's continue. Not perfect, but great. Let's talk about Kitsap's unemployment rate, 3.4% in September. It continues to go down. In August, it was above 4%. Throughout the pandemic, it has been in the lowest quartile of performance. We haven't really seen big unemployment in Kitsap. And this is something that I think is really interesting. Pre-pandemic, here's King County, here's Kitsap. We're going along. We hit the pandemic in March and April of 2020. It's the end of the world. And coming back, Kitsap is recovering faster than King County, right? I have a theory for why that is. A, maybe a less volatile economy, but B, we have something called the defense economy that I think ballasts us. Things just kind of need to get done regardless of what's happening in the world. 8,000 housing units are under construction or under permitting in Kitsap County right now. A lot of it is happening central south, right? Bremerton, Port Orchard, and unincorporated parts of the county, stepping up to create enough housing for our community. When we look at prices, we've grown, right? Our home values and our resale values, they have gone up significantly. And I'm sure you've all seen it. But the black line's Kitsap, the green line is the MLS, and so the Northwest MLS. And so Kitsap remains more affordable than much of Puget Sound. Not as affordable as it used to be, and that gap is probably going to continue to narrow. Why do you think that, you know, if you've got Pierce or you've got Snohomish and they're slightly more expensive than Kitsap, we're actually right on par with Pierce in so many ways? Why do you think that we're going to close the gap a little bit and that these black and green lines are going to maybe come together? Anybody want to take a shot at it?
As affordability in those places such as King or Pierce has flipped on that end, people search wider and wider, and that gap continues to decrease here.
I was told a while ago by a fellow who was selling 300 new built homes that vast majority of the buyers were youngish, well, families. They were roughly the same age, but they all had at least 2 kids, and the eldest child was getting ready to start school in the next year. And they did their research. Our schools, well, North Kitsap specifically, are rated very high. And Seattle?
Yeah, Seattle public schools struggle.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's that. There's generational growth with millennials maybe leaving the city. There's people saying, I'm gonna leave the city because it's expensive and I'm gonna go to suburban areas. Right. By the way, all suburban areas are seeing growth. Like Linwood is seeing growth. We're not that special, except we are because we're so beautiful. But every suburban community is seeing growth. But when you take the generational change, and you take Kitsap's fiber and broadband internet, which we continue to support and need to continue to build out that backbone, and you say that it's a half hour by foot from Bremerton, from Kingston, from Southworth to get to downtown Seattle, the game changes a little bit, right? And so if you're somebody who used to have to go into the office every day and spend an hour on I-5, right? Average commute for a Kitsapian was 30 plus minutes. I bet a lot of us don't commute 30 minutes. I bet some of us commute 5 minutes. But in the past, you know, if you had to go that way, that's what drove us to have some of the highest commute numbers in the Puget Sound region. If you only have to go to the office once a week or twice a week, this changes where you can live quite a bit. All right. Another advantage, we have the largest industrial greenfield site called the Port of Bremerton and Bremerton National Airport and South Kitsap Industrial Center Bremerton, right out there on Highway 3. And so there's so much opportunity there that the Port of Bremerton won the Job Creator of the Year award last year for the growth in its tenancies. And it is really special given how much of Puget Sound is developed that we sort of have this emerald gem in our backyard. So I see that as positive. And then the other 2 things that I see as positive is, frankly, our proximity to Seattle and the defense economy. We are starting down a 20-year path of investment, national investment in all of the Navy's shipyards. And Naval Base Kitsap and PSNS is going to receive a considerable portion of that. Some of the awards were made this week. 20 years, $21 billion. And then it's weird to forget, I've been going to Seattle lately because the pandemic's not over, but people are doing things again, and I had to go into Seattle. And it was a really amazing experience. Seattle is far from dead and has received a lot of investment through this pandemic and will return to be a center of influence. And we're perched right on the edge of that. And it's something that benefits us. right? So I've talked a lot about our economic advantages. I think we've got the biggest future possible in front of us. I don't think that in the recent history of Kitsap, there has been as much opportunity as there is right now. With people moving to this community, with our defense economy, with what's happening in Seattle, I think now is the time. And we're doing what we can to capitalize on that, right? We're building housing. We're working to build out our broadband infrastructure so that people can telecommute, and sort of do digital jobs in our community. Okay, now I'm gonna turn things over to the chambers, because I've talked a lot. David, Kaylee, Irene, Gina, what's this? Help me out.
Shop, eat, spend, Kitsap.
Right,
It is an initiative of all of the chambers through KEDA to really promote shopping, eating, and spending in Kitsap. Shop local. And all of the chambers are promoting it and on board with it. Joe has hired a social media person to really work with the chambers to get out the word for the small businesses. And in Silverdale, we have to embrace that we're a box store city. And we have to, we're also, I mean, you know, Macy's is Macy's, but it's at least in Silverdale. So shop there, or, you know, Kohl's, or any of those box stores. They're all at least in Silverdale, so we have to embrace that as well, and we are. So, Irene?
Yes, Irene.
Well, to add to that, because I think it's been really great that KEDA has been pushing this. This campaign actually started last year, but it was really more of just a word of mouth versus a concerted effort on the parts of the chambers to be involved. But I mean, we've gotten great responses from the Central Kitsap businesses, and have kind of piggybacked on everything that KEDA is doing to sort of push further shopping local this holiday season with a new program that we're starting called Gnome on their Own. And that's really open to any Central Kitsap business, so anyone here in this room can participate. But it's just a way, you know, to get people to go to the places that do still exist, and to ensure that they will still be here post-COVID, whenever that might be.
Yes, please.
So it's a holiday event, or it's not?
It's a campaign that we run, you know, we'll take another shot at it next year too.
Yeah.
We advocate for spending as much of your dollars as possible through all the year, but especially in Q4 in Kitsap. When you spend $1 here, and you know, maybe, I don't wanna spoil who this person is, he's your boss, but anyway. He said to me, you know, I can order my motorcycle parts on Amazon, or I can go to Cliff Cycle Center and see if they've got it. Makes a big difference to Cliff. And in our local economy, it's about 3 times the economic impact if you spend your dollars locally, right? And it's fine to spend it at Macy's, but it's just the dollars stay here and they stay in circulation more. So we do this every year, and we're just gonna keep at it. There's a bunch of stuff happening on Facebook, 800-person Facebook group, deals, posts all the time, Facebook Live. So if you get a chance, shop, eat, spend, kitsap.com and join the group. Kaylee from Kingston, what's up?
Yeah, so just in regards to the Shop, Eat, Spend Kitsap, they do Facebook Lives, Instagram Lives, Reels, things like that for small businesses based out of Kitsap. And yeah, like Joe said, there is a Facebook page and an Instagram page. So if you guys do want to, you know, help support it, follow them, like their things, it really drives it.
Yeah, or if you want to get the word out about what you're doing this quarter in your business, reach out. Go ahead.
Is Algelin still taking?
Algelin still, I would assume just reach out to Algelin, and if you can't reach her, so she's our social media coordinator, but you can email any of us on the last slide and we'll get it to you. We've had things happen today. We had a couple talks. I think one's about to kick off. So if you want to hop online at 1 p.m., we have a SEO and search engine marketing, search engine optimization webinar happening. If you're in the world of government contracting, and we care a lot about that, we want to see local companies and local contractors get more of the defense dollars that flow through our community. If you're doing that, we have something on post-award contract modifications on November 18th. Had a talk on workforce at 9:30 a.m. We generally do a monthly webinar. I hear people are zoomed out. I feel zoomed out. So we're going to come back on January 13th with a discussion of business credit and post-holiday credit and how to manage credit effectively for economic gains. And that's it. I'll take any questions. Please reach out to me. Shoot me an email. We care a lot. We're delighted to serve this community, and this is the best place ever. So thanks for having me today. Appreciate it. I don't think it. If you've got them, just